Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, we're going to take a look at mental health issues across the country and why our justice system just isn't prepared to deal with them. That's just next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Where you see it every day on the news, mental health issues are topping the news. And when it comes to crime, I personally don't feel like our justice system is prepared to deal with people with mental health issues. To talk about that, Terry Bentley Hill, a good friend and a very prominent criminal defense attorney. Thanks for coming into the studio.
Jeff, it's great being with you. Love it.
And I love your area of specialty because you really concentrate on people with mental health issues.
Exactly. It comes naturally to me, and mainly because I've had experiences in my own family, and I understand what that's about. And especially when people are first-time offenders, Jeff, and they get involved with the criminal justice system because they may be in a mental health crisis, or they may have a substance use disorder or something like that. But if they were treating their mental health issues, or if they were addressing the core issues, they would probably never bump up against the criminal justice system. So it really, I think, is it's almost a focus that many attorneys have got to figure out when we're defending our clients, that there is a special person, and we need to have special ways of dealing with those cases.
And I want you to truly know Terry because of her heart. She's won countless awards, but we found a great video that was made for you a couple of years ago. Let's go ahead and roll that now.
I was a news reporter. That was my first job when I graduated from the University of Texas in Austin. And I covered the police department and the courthouse. And I covered some very serious trials. And I watched those attorneys, one defending the client, the other one working for the state. And I was mesmerized by both of their jobs. And I thought, that is something I want to do. The best thing I love about being a criminal defense attorney is working with the clients, is talking to them, learning their story, telling their story to the prosecutor, helping them. Many of my clients suffer from mental health issues, substance abuse issues, and I believe that incarcerating sick people is a mistake. We have a tendency in this country to mind our own business. Well, when it comes to people who are suffering with this medical condition, we have to stop minding our own business. Unfortunately, I've had 2 seriously traumatic events in my life that have led me to this place where I am. I've had 2 suicides in my family. My first husband took his life. He was the elected district attorney in 1995. 9 years later, my youngest daughter, she died of depression, and she also took her life. It was the darkest moment in my life, without a doubt. Her father's death was horrible. It was right in front of me, but to lose a child. Everything that I have done since the suicides in my life, there hasn't been a sacrifice for me. It has been a mission. And what I do as a criminal defense attorney is I feel like I am doing work for the greatest social worker that has ever lived. And so I feel like this is how God is using me. I don't think I'm saving the world, but I think I'm doing my part. And I think this is what He would want me to do.
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing your story, and I love it how that you use the pain for purpose,
Right.
and now you're making a difference in the justice system. I was on your website and I found a line that I really liked. Prison is for people we are afraid of, not for people we are mad at.
Right.
Can you explain that?
Yes, I think for when it comes to prison, when it comes to jail, there are people who are violent. There are people who are really scary. There are people who are going to be very hard to rehabilitate. And those people we do need to protect our community, our society from, no doubt about it. However, when there are people who are making mistakes because they are in a medical crisis and they are involved with the police and they get charges filed against them, those oftentimes maybe people we are angry at. Maybe they go in and they steal some items from Walmart, and that makes us mad because we all have to pay for it. Maybe they are trying to support a drug habit and they'll break into someone's car. That's terrible. I'm not condoning that, but it makes us mad. It is not an activity that's going to threaten anyone, hopefully. If we can get, if they're trying to support a drug habit, or if they're in a mental health crisis and they're angry and they're lashing out and they might strike an EMS worker or they might strike a police officer, but they're in a psychotic break. Those people can be handled in such a way that they don't have to go to prison, and we don't have to lock the door and throw away the key and just say, well, at least we're protected from these people, because they're going to get out.
Sure.
And they're still going to have a mental health issue, or they're still going to have a drug issue. So my perspective, we deal with the core issues. They don't get back into the criminal justice system most of the time. And I know that because I've been doing this a long time. I have worked with clients. We have gotten them the help that they needed with the help of the district attorney's office, because they're being very progressive here in Dallas. They're addressing those needs. And so we're working together to solve a problem, not banging heads, like a lot of lawyers do. We're working to solve a problem. So the rest of us are going to be safer and better off, and it'll be less cost to us as a community if we can deal with the issues at hand instead of locking them up in prison and then having to deal with them again.
Let's talk about the first responders. What kind of training do they get right now to recognize the signs of a mental situation rather than a criminal situation?
Fortunately, because of some of the very tragic events that we've experienced with police officer shootings and people who are mentally ill, and officers were not trained originally to deal with people who are in a mental health crisis. In fact, you think about police officers, they're usually very aggressive. They're like, listen to what I say, get on the ground. And if a person is in a mental health crisis, that only incites them. That causes panic in them. So what's happened as a result, and this is good news, is that the training the officers are going through the training is way more focused on what do you do when you encounter a person who is in a mental health crisis, especially if a call has come over 911 and the family member has said, okay, my loved one is holding a knife and threatening this family, but they are in a psychotic break. Then the police officers know exactly what they need to do. Now, also what's happening is there is a new number called which is 988, which is the crisis mobile number. It's the new 911 for mental health issues. And so if you have a loved one who's in a mental health crisis and is threatening people, causing damage to the home, or you're afraid they're going to go out and hurt someone, then you can call 988, and then a mobile crisis unit will be sent with trained mental health professionals who will come on the scene with the police officers to de-escalate. We want to de-escalate, not escalate the situation.
Sure. And this specialty has really caught the attention of the media and the bar, and we've got a D Magazine award that I want to put on the screen right now. That's got to feel good. I know you've put in countless years in your practice. Does it feel rewarding to get recognized?
You know, it does. I'm very honored because that award is we're chosen by our colleagues, and so to me that is huge for your own colleagues to say, you know, she is one of the best in Dallas, and that means a lot to me because it's not just a profession; it's a passion, and so I'm glad that my passion is acknowledged. And that I do believe that I do a really good job at practicing law and doing what I do. I do, or I wouldn't be doing it. And so, yeah, it was a big honor.
Well, in that clip earlier, you mentioned stop minding your own business,
Right.
but let's dig a little deeper. Tell us more.
I had the most amazing experience. I do a lot of talking. I talk all over the country. I go to events. I'm the MC at this or whatever. And I met this young man who, when he was 17 years old, he jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge. And I am the mother of a child who died by suicide. And I said, Kevin, what were you thinking when you jumped off the bridge? And he said something I'll never forget. He said, oftentimes when a person is suicidal and they will make a pact with themselves. If this happens today, I won't die today. May die tomorrow, but I won't die today. And the pact that he made with himself that day was if one person asked him, are you okay? He would not have jumped off that bridge. And he told me about his entire day of encountering people. He's 17 years old. He's crying on a city bus. Nobody says. They don't step out of their comfort zone. They're minding their own business like we're taught in this country, just mind your own business. Nobody asked him, son, are you okay? And he jumped off. Fortunately, he survived. But I'll never forget him telling me that. And I thought, oh my gosh, we can all say, are you okay? If I see someone struggling, I will always ask them that one question, are you okay? So I thought we have got to stop minding our own business. We've got to teach people that it's okay to ask the questions, to ask even the probing questions, like, are you thinking of hurting yourself? When you know someone is very depressed or upset, or you just know your gut tells you, you step out of your comfort zone, you stop minding your own business, and you ask the really tough questions. Are you thinking of hurting yourself? And if the answer is yes, then you go to the next question. Do you have a plan? And usually, and it's a myth that most people don't want to ask that question because they're afraid that it'll plant an idea in that person's mind. It's a myth. So when you do ask that question, it relieves the suicidal pressure oftentimes. And I have had enough experience asking those questions, even of clients, where I know asking those questions can save a life.
What do you see for the coming years? Do you think the mental health epidemic that we're experiencing right now is going to play out in the
Yes.
judicial system?
Oh, yes, without a doubt. Right now, if a person goes into and by the way, the Dallas County Jail is the second largest mental institute in the state of Texas, behind the Harris County Jail in Houston. We are locking sick people up because we don't have any other way to deal with these people. We don't have any other way. So number one, it's incumbent upon all of us to figure out how can we do this differently and do this better. But we don't need to lock these sick people up. And if there's a client who goes in for just let's say DWI, okay, that person is incompetent to stand trial. That person has to be restored to competency. And right now, you have to be sent to a state hospital. And the waiting list to get into a state hospital for certain crimes, not a DWI, but certain other violent offenses, can be 4 years.
Oh, goodness.
So that person can be sitting in that county jail for 4 years, continuing to decline until a bed opens up and they can go and get restored to competency. So the problem is we don't have enough mental health facilities. And we've got politicians screaming, we have all these mental health issues, but they're not willing to spend the money to do things differently and to build hospitals.
Wow, we are almost out of time. Final thoughts, what would you like to leave the audience with?
We've experienced something unprecedented with the pandemic. And people are going to show signs. It usually doesn't happen right away. But if you do see and know someone who is struggling, don't hesitate to call the suicide crisis numbers. 988 for sure, that's easy to remember, but there are local numbers like in Dallas, 214-828-1000 that will get a trained volunteer on the phone to help you through that crisis period. People are really going to struggle. Psychiatrists tell me we will spot the kids. These kids who were locked down at home and who had to wear masks to school for a while, they didn't get to see each other and express themselves. We're gonna know those kids in the future. So we've got to watch out for each other.
Terry, we could go on for an hour.
I know.
You're an amazing guest. We're going to have you back for sure. We're going to end with the website, which is terrybentleyhill.com. Terry, thank you so much for coming in.
Oh, Jeff, thank you. What a pleasure. I love seeing you.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.